Hello, my friends. Get married and have children? No, thank you. First of all, as always, let me know if the video is fine, if the audio is fine. I am going to eat a frozen waffle because I'm hungry. But I just felt like if I didn't start streaming now, I wasn't gonna stream like today at all. And I wanted to do it today because it's been 1 week since I did part 1 of this, so I didn't want to, make it like too long between part 1 and part 2. So yeah, enjoy me eating a frozen waffle. Meanwhile, we can have this lovely discussion in chat about whether a woman's role is to get married and have children. But at least this thing seems promising, as it seems to point toward increasing political apathy. What do you mean by this thing? And why is it good to increase political apathy? Are we like celebrating that? That I'm a woman and I don't care about politics that much anymore? Well, I'm not gonna become a trad wife, so yeah. The text on the screen, yeah. We're really out here celebrating that. I'm closer to being a trad wife, apparently. One step at a time. And being smart does make you better than other people. Well, that mentality was not good for me. It was not healthy. It was not functional. So yeah, I'm very glad that I guess not completely, because it's really hard to completely deprogram something like that, but I'm glad to be leaving that behind. I really like how this person is just like analyzing the stuff I wrote in the other stream. Okay. Yeah, whatever. I'll just take that away from them. Okay, so this was the OK Liberal video was pretty much the end of my Marxist phase. And that is where we left off last time. skirt. How did the OK Liberal video make me not Marxist? It didn't make me not Marxist, it was just like the last thing I did as a Marxist. That was my final contribution to Marxism. I think I went out with a bang. Okay, so let's start this thing. This is going to be the stream where I disappoint literally everyone that's like following me, or my subscribers, my Twitter followers, everyone. I guess at least everyone who was following me because I was a leftist. But it's not really that I'm not a leftist anymore. That's what I want to explain. So I guess let's try to do one thing at a time, like chronologically. How am I gonna do this? So I guess the first thing that we need to keep in mind is that okay, I guess we can put it this way, like I've always had the values of work bad, trees good. Always had the values work bad, trees good. If you were here with me last time I streamed about this, I was talking about how ever since my anti-SGW phase, ever since my ANCAP phase, like ever since, like always, I've always liked trees. Actually, I think I didn't even mention the thing about the trees, but I like trees. I've always liked trees. I actually tweeted about this the other day because I was thinking about, like, where did this come from? And I think it came from going to this farm hotel that we would always go to when I was like 4 years old. So that's always been a thing with me. And I've always, you know, like, you know the story about the cicada and the ant, or sometimes it's called the grasshopper and the ant. If you don't know, it's basically like there's a cicada and there's an ant. And the cicada just like sings all summer while the ant is working, like stocking up on food and stuff. And then when winter comes, the cicada is like, "Ant, can you give me some food?" And the ant is like, "Well, no, you should have worked, but you chose to like sing instead, so fuck you." And I mean, regardless of what that says about like, you know, whether or not people should work or whether or not people should get welfare or anything like that, that was just a formative thing to me, because I really liked the cicada just in the sense that she was like, or he or they, were just like artsy. It's basically like the hippie yuppie dichotomy, right? And I mean, I used to go to the theatre to see this play like, I think like every week. Like, I don't remember exactly, but I know I went to see this play like a million times. It's like, I don't even know how long it was on for that I could go see it so much, but I feel like, this is probably not true, but I feel like every week I went to see this play for like years of my childhood, which again, that's probably not what happened, but it's like, that's how kind of important it was to me. And at the end they would like call some of the kids to go on stage and stuff, and I would always go. It was a big deal. And so, yeah, regardless of the actual moral of the fable, I just aesthetically identified with the cicada way more than the ant. So I was much more of like a hippie supporter than a yuppie supporter. I thought being a yuppie, kind of like wearing a suit, having like an office job, 9 to 5, rat race, all that stuff was like super cringe. And the cool thing was to be like artsy, hippie, cicada, yeah. And actually, wait. Yuppie ant versus hippie cicada. So yeah, these two things were what really were like my deep core values, that even when I was an anti-SJW, I still wanted to be this kind of anti-mainstream kind of, what do you call it? Last time I was looking for this word and I still don't know what word I'm looking for, but just like, someone who like deviates from society. So I didn't believe in gender roles. I didn't shave, like I said last stream. Last stream I was also trying to remember the other kind of like weird feminist thing that I did, and it was that since like I was 15, I think, I haven't worn a bra. So yeah, I've always been this kind of person. When I was ANCAP, also, like I said last time, I wanted to basically have like an ANCAP commune that was like a ANCOM eco village, but it was ANCAP. So like these things, I still, contrarian, yeah, kind of, but not contrarian, I feel like is very edgy. And I was very edgy, like I said last time, don't get me wrong, but I just mean like in a less bad way, like you're not really trying to be aggressive just for the sake of being aggressive, but you're just kind of deviating, like being a weird hippie kind of person. And yeah, and so these things were like the real reasons why iconoclastic, yeah, sure, we'll go with that. So these things were the real things that should like make me a communist or make me resonate with communism. And these things haven't changed, and my idea that, so let me put, these things haven't changed. And my idea that like a stateless, classless, moneyless, workless society would be good, probably, that hasn't changed either. So stateless, moneyless, what's the other thing? Fuck. Classless. would be good. Yeah, that hasn't changed either. However, what I started to notice was that, for one thing, my praxis, shall we say, like the way I was actually acting on my communist beliefs was just to be a contrarian, to like own the libs and to, tell everyone on Twitter that, like quote Marx at them just to get these like ownage points that, for example, like, oh, you have the wrong definition of socialism, that's not the Marxist definition of socialism. So yeah, my praxis was just owning the libs with Marx quotes. And, in addition to that being stupid, because it's like, who cares what's the Marxist definition of socialism? Like, you can argue that, but you have to argue for it. It's not like inherently that Marx is better. And I wasn't terribly interested in doing that. It's like I wasn't really doing anything bad, but I was doing it for the wrong reasons. So I wasn't doing something bad, but was doing it for the wrong reasons. And also, then I would get like in these debates and stuff, and I would try to get like as shallow an understanding as I could of whatever it was I was arguing about. So I remember like DMing people who actually studied Marxism and stuff to, I don't know, like basically just learn like a very surface level argument. For example, like I don't know if anyone's going to remember this, but one time I actually made the mistake of agreeing to a debate on a stream, and that was meant to be like communism and capitalism, and I was arguing the communism side, and I mentioned the falling rate of profit. And first of all, I had like a bit of a hard time explaining it, because like the day before the debate I was asking someone else to explain it to me so I could just repeat everything they said. So I was just parroting talking points on a debate. And then there was this study that was supposed to show that the falling rate of profit was real and was like happening, now, because people always say like, oh yeah, Marx was saying all that in the 19th century, but do you have the data to prove that it's still relevant now? And there was a study that was meant to be that. But like, I didn't even read it, I didn't even understand it. I just fucking saw someone say that was the falling rate of profit study, and I got the link for it, and I had linked it to the other guy. And then the big meme at the time was that they said like, I think they said like, can you explain the study, or can you like tell me what it says and stuff? And I said, no, I can't. It literally just says Marx was right. Study just says Marx was right. And it was like that with everything. Like, I didn't really care to understand truly anything that I was talking about. I would just get all the communist talking points from theory Twitter and just go with that. And there's something else I was going to say. Oh yeah, and the other thing as well was that I didn't really know the counter arguments, because it's like, something that Destiny said once was that when he was young, he was an objectivist, like a fan of Ayn Rand, and like afterwards when he realized that was not a good idea, it kind of scared him how the Ayn Rand stuff managed to convince him just because it sounded like eloquent. And it's kind of like if you hear someone present their ideas or read in that like speech kind of way, it's very easy to just go along with it, you know, because a speech is probably gonna sound good. So what you have to do is it's basically like if you listen to a fucking TED talk or watch a YouTube video or something, unless it's something that you like already disagree with, if it's something that you'd never heard of before, like it's very easy to just believe everything you just heard because it was presented in a nice way and stuff. But what you have to do to like make sure that actually holds up is go find the counter arguments, right? And I never really did that. Oh my god, the counter arguments to make sure it holds up. And I never did that with all the communist stuff. And it's like, I'm not saying it's wrong. In fact, I mean, gun to my head, do you think it's right or wrong? I would still say it's probably right because I know there are like respectable people who study and stuff who, you know, accept it. But I don't actually know for myself if it's right or wrong or like what the arguments are. So it was very easy, for example, to say that communism is the only way to stop climate change because I'd heard so many people say that so many times. But I didn't really know the nitty-gritty of what the liberal ideas for climate change even were, so I couldn't say like, oh yeah, carbon tax isn't going to work because of this and this and this, or like the Green New Deal isn't going to work because of this and this and this, because I didn't even care to go see what the Green New Deal even was, like what it was even proposing. And yeah, that's not a good way to go about anything. Yeah, I guess, and I wasn't willing to look into the liberal ideas or look into anything in more depth than repeating communist Twitter talking points. So that was one big thing that basically I just realized I wasn't as interested in theory and stuff as I thought. And I guess I wasn't as interested in economics at all. Because that's another thing as well that's kind of weird. Because this all started because I, like my whole involvement in politics started because it was like feminism or anti-feminism, gender roles or no gender roles and stuff like that. Like more cultural, sociological things. And then suddenly I have to know like about the falling rate of profit. Like I didn't sign up to be into economics. But yeah, so that was kind of weird, but I don't know. I guess I just realized I was being a bad Marxist, and for me to be a good Marxist I would have to learn a lot more, and I just didn't want to. Then the other thing that happened was the George Floyd riots. And obviously police killing people bad, police racist and all that. Like, I'm not gonna, sorry, like, don't worry, I don't think that police brutality or like police racism isn't real, none of that. And I guess I even thought that burning the police stations was okay, but yeah, I'm making a mess of this. I guess the thing is, a lot of people saw that whole thing as like, now is the time to see if you're willing to not even walk the walk, but support people who are walking the walk, or if you're just talking the talk. It was like, now that something's actually happening, you have to know what side you're on. If you're really a communist, like, you have to support people kind of revolting and stuff. And I was like, yeah, that's fair enough. This is the time to see if you're really a communist or not. And I guess I'm not that much, because I wasn't sure if where exactly I stood on that. It just made me really uncomfortable. Now is the time to decide where you stand when something real happens. And I didn't know where I stood, because the other thing that makes it complicated is that it's not even thinking about the problem, but it's also kind of dealing with the discourse. So one thing that I didn't like about this was people being super callous towards cops, really acting like all cops are bastards, like all cops are these evil people that we shouldn't care about at all, and they're just bad, they chose a bad job and they all basically deserve to die. So didn't like people saying cops were evil and basically deserve to die, because I don't think anyone becomes a cop because I don't think anyone is evil. I just think people are misguided. And I think morality is kind of it's more similar to a lack of information than really a bad choice, if that makes sense. If you buy into any kind of harmful ideology, it's just because you were taught the wrong ideas. And for one thing, you can't really expect people to just divine the right ideas out of nowhere without having someone else to teach them, and without them having the kind of, not ability, but if you've had this ideology drilled into you your entire life, it's not because someone on Twitter linked you an article about why that's wrong that you're immediately going to change your mind, And it varies from person to person how much it's going to take for them to change their mind. So I don't think you can ever be well, they had the chance to learn because they were exposed to different ideas in this and this and this way. But if they couldn't accept those different ideas, then clearly they weren't learning, they weren't being able to learn, But I guess the problem is then, how do you deal with people who are doing bad things? And it's obviously I believe in self-defense, right? Like, obviously if somebody's threatening you or harming you or something like that, you know, you're not going to be like, oh well, they just didn't have the opportunity to learn more about morality and stuff, so guess I'll die. Like, no, obviously you can defend yourself even if you end up killing them, but I guess I just don't like the way that people talk about it. I guess to me it's like really, really important the way that people talk about it, the way that people conceptualize it, even if we agree about what should be done in practice. So like, if somebody kills, I don't know, like someone who's trying to sexually assault them, like, yeah, I agree, they should be able to do that, they shouldn't like be punished for it or any way or anything, like obviously that's what they had to do. But then some other person who agrees with me on this might be like, yeah, no, but that's good because the rapists deserve to die and they're evil and it's good when rapists die. And I'm like, well, not really. Like, I wouldn't be celebrating it like that, because I think it's kind of tragic that this person wasn't able to like get to the point where they're not a rapist, and that it had to end like that for them. And you know, like I said, it might seem like a stupid distinction because we agree about what should be done about it anyway, but I don't know, to me it just matters. Like, I couldn't even tell you, I mean, I guess if I tried I could tell you like why each of these conceptualizations might lead to different practical results, and that's why it's important. But to be quite honest, that's not even why I care. Like, even if they didn't lead to different practical outcomes, I think I would still care, just because I care that people think like I do on this, just because yeah, so I guess that was one thing. And yeah, so I guess on the actual cop thing, it's, yeah, that's not terribly controversial. Like, I think that it's unfortunate if cops die, if cops like lose their job, if cops like have their workplace burned down or whatever. So I'm not going to be like, hell yeah, fuck you pigs, like you deserved all this, blah 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 blah. But I can acknowledge that it was necessary, and you know, no matter why you ended up being a cop, because another thing I would say as well was that cops are often like people who don't have a lot of other opportunities, and cop is a job that like provides stability and stuff, so it's sometimes like vulnerable people that end up with that job, but it and it's not because they just like want to be oppressive. It might just be because they don't have many opportunities, but that ultimately doesn't really matter, because I guess like no matter why you ended up in a position where your job is to oppress people, I guess it's just a thing that comes with the consequence of people sometimes fighting back, and it's not going to end very well for you, unfortunately, but it's just kind of like a risk that comes with a job where your job is to like be bad. So yeah, that's fine. But then the other thing, hold on, let me just write that down. But say violent opposition or people fighting back is a consequence that comes with the job. To be fair, I would need to probably like check that this view I've just expressed actually is consistent with my beliefs about other things, but whatever. And then the other thing was about like hello Maria, in terms of police enforcement, I don't know how it works there, but here cops kind of need to be fascist to be accepted. Yeah, sure, like, I'm not sure what exactly you mean by they need to be fascist to be accepted, but I agree, not even agree, just like I can observe that the things they're required to do for their jobs are often bad things. And yeah. Yeah, and then the other thing was, so this was about the violence against actual cops, but then there was the whole thing about the violence against business owners. And that left me like very iffy. Violence against business owners left me iffy. Don't even know if that's like how you would say this, like left me iffy, but whatever. Because they didn't really have anything to do with the whole police thing. Like, people made the argument that it was just like part of the riot, and the riot had to be violent for people to pay attention and stuff, but I don't know, I just feel like the business owners just didn't have to be implicated, because targeting the police for something the police are doing kind of makes sense, but targeting like business owners who are just there doesn't seem to. And I thought it was very weird if you were like, oh yeah, if you're a business owner, you have to accept people destroying your business because to save black lives. Like, I don't think that makes a lot of sense, or that like anyone would accept that. I mean, I think some people might have, but it just doesn't make sense. And then some people started saying like, oh, but business owners are bad too because they exploit workers and stuff. Like, yeah, sure, but this wasn't even about that. Like, if it were like a violent strike or something, that the workers of those businesses were being violent to demand better working conditions and stuff like that, it would be like, I'm not sure what I would think about it, but it would be a totally different thing than what actually happened. And I feel like just because I was questioning that, like, I felt very uncomfortable just questioning it on communist Twitter. Like, I felt like everyone was like, I don't even remember if people really got mad at me. I think some did. Oh yeah, I think it got to the point where someone that I was like mutuals with, and we interacted like not very much, but you know, we were just like friendly mutuals and stuff. And she said, oh yeah, I think she posted a screen cap of me talking about this with with an emoji with like a raised eyebrow. And then somebody replied like, oh, I'm so glad she left the group chat. And it was like the Leftcom group chat that I kind of had wanted to join for ages. And I was so happy when I finally did, and then I ended up leaving just because the notifications annoyed me. But someone being like, oh yeah, I'm so glad she left the group chat. That really hurt. And it's like, I just didn't feel like I was a communist anymore. Not really because of my actual views, but because I mean, I guess it sounds kind of stupid, but because like the communist Twitter community was kind of rejecting me. And I guess it's kind of like, it was as if people were saying, if you're questioning this, then you're not a communist. And I just kind of was like, okay, then I guess I'm not. Although I don't really know how much this has to do with communism. But then I feel like if I say I'm not a communist, then people think that I don't believe in all the critiques of capitalism, and I don't still have, not even have the goal, but I don't think that a stateless, classless, moneyless society would be good, and it's kind of like what we would need to solve all these problems that we have. So basically I just can't say either thing. Like, both saying that I am a communist and saying that I'm not a communist would probably give people the wrong idea. So I don't even know. But also, like I said, I'm just not even that interested anymore. I guess I'm still interested in politics in the sense that I still like to consume like debates and stuff. But in regards to actually picking a side, I just don't care that much anymore. And because I don't know if I ever even did care that much, I think what I cared about was more just dunking on people, and actually that got pretty stressful. I didn't even write down half the things I said. Glad she left the group chat. Felt like couldn't identify as communist, but also not really not a communist because of the end goal. I felt kind of weird saying goal, like end desire, because hold on, let me, now I just put it here, that the discourse never really, no, I was always more interested in discourse than real politics, and the discourse got too stressful, and I just started thinking like, I think because it got stressful, I started thinking like maybe I shouldn't do this, and I started thinking like this is stupid. Like, we're all just kind of being way more aggressive than we really need to be or really probably want to be, but it's just kind of what you do, like in a performance kind of way. Like everything I said in my video about Twitter, if you saw that, like most of discourse is just kind of these shallow inflammatory things that if you actually sat down and had a chat about it in real life like a normal person, you'd probably realize you don't even disagree as much as it might seem, and the only reason you're being like so combative about it is because that's how you get all the likes, and that's how you get all the retweets and all that, and that's how you remain belonging to whatever political clique you're part of. And if you ever so slightly question anything, then you're not part of the clique anymore. So that's, that really discourages you from behaving in any other way that isn't being aggressive and all that. So yeah, everything, oh my god, I can't write everything I said in the Twitter video. And yeah, and so because I was more interested in the discourse and then I didn't want to do discourse anymore, it's kind of like, okay, am I gonna engage in politics in like any better way? Like, what could I do in that sense? I could either go and actually learn about Marxism and learn about like I said, like the counter arguments to liberal policies and stuff like that. Well, I don't really want to do that. I could, I don't know, I guess like get involved in something IRL, like mutual aid or something like that. Join a party, maybe join an organization or something. And well, for one thing, I can't even really do that because this was right as the pandemic started. And also, to be quite honest, I just wouldn't do that because I just don't want to, and I think people should be allowed to not want to, because you can do other things. Like, I don't think the only way that you can kind of have a positive impact on the world is through politics. Like, people act like some people act like if you're not involved in politics, then you're basically like just this reprehensible leech or something who like doesn't care about the people who need help and stuff like that. But I don't think that's how it is. I think any thing that you can do, like most human activity, is going to help other people. And honestly, even if you don't want to help other people, then whatever, like existing is hard enough. And that's kind of like how I feel. Like, I can barely even like help myself. Like, I can barely do stuff to make me happy, let alone like try to help everyone else and stuff like that. But regardless, this is like we don't need to go that deep. The point is just that I kind of lost interest in politics, or at least in having strong political opinions, because like I said, opinions, I still watch streams and debates and stuff. Oh yeah, and then the other thing I was going to say is about like whether or not I'm a communist. Some people say that politics aren't like what you identify as, but it's what you do. And yeah, I think that makes sense. That's, a respectable way of viewing things. So in that sense, I guess you could, politics is not what you identify as, but what you do. So in that sense, because I don't really do anything, I mean, it's not like I did much before. Like, all I did was fucking tweet and sometimes make YouTube videos, which, I don't think those things are totally irrelevant because, especially on YouTube, like if there aren't people making leftist videos, then the alt-righters just have free range. Is that the word? Like, they just don't have any opposition, they can take over. So like when people say like, oh, you're just a YouTuber, you're not doing anything, I don't really think it's not doing anything, but it's not doing that much either. But regardless, the point is, if somebody were to argue that based on me not acting like a communist anymore, just thinking that a communist society would be nice isn't enough to make me a communist, and I think they would have a point. So let me write that down. Based on what I do, nothing. I'm not a communist. But then, based on what I do, I guess they would say I'm just a liberal, because if you don't do anything, then you basically just not really actively uphold the status quo, but if you're just kind of not doing anything by inertia, you just kind of go with the flow of the status quo. But again, like I said, I feel like it would also be kind of misleading to say I'm a liberal, because I still agree with all the communist critiques of capitalism and with the end goal of communism. But liberal seems misleading because I still agree with communist critiques of capitalism. And I guess the problem is how to get from now to communism, because that's kind of what the whole George Floyd thing highlighted, right? Is that I should have just said this, like, instead of rambling so much about it like I did, what I should have said was just that I find it very, very hard to pick a side when there's violence involved, because I just don't like violence. And that's not, like, I'm not saying violence is bad and that it shouldn't ever, that it's like never necessary. I'm just saying I'm very bad at like dealing with it. Well, not how to get, like, it's what I support in terms of getting from now to communism, because I don't like violence. So I just feel like I'm not a good person for this job, you know? Like, yeah, like I said, I'm not saying that violence is necessarily not necessary. It might be, but I shouldn't be in charge of, like, determining that. Not that I was ever, like, in charge of anything, but, you know, even, like, having takes on this, I guess what I'm saying is just that I'm very biased against violence. And so that might make me, like, a bad person to be a communist or to be very involved in politics in general, because that's basically, you know, like a very fundamental, possibly reductive level what politics is, right? Is like what violence is justified and what violence isn't. So yeah, I'm just not the woman for the job. Yeah. Trying to think if there's anything else to say. I think that's pretty much it. For me, I figure not everyone... Oh my god! Is that rectangle in your profile picture? Oh my fucking Jesus. I love Poland Ball so much. I got, like, I think it was 10k Reddit karma just from drawing Poland balls like last year, because I got an iPad just so I could draw, and then I just drew Poland balls. That was pretty much the only thing I used the iPad for. Because they're so cute, and, like, the jokes are so funny, and it's, like, so, you know, big brain, like, you get to learn things, and again, like I said, they're so cute, and also they're so cute. But anyway, that's totally besides the point. So what this person with the rectangle profile picture actually said was, for me, I figure not everyone can be a frontline revolutionary, so I try to do what minor things I can while trying to survive this capitalist hellscape. Probably would get me called a rad lib on Twitter, but whatever. Yeah. remember at one point I did a stream that was like looking into anarcho-pacifism, because I guess I was trying to see if there was any way that I could kind of like do stuff / still participate in politics. Like, I'm not even sure why I wanted to, or even if I wanted to, but I guess I just wanted to see. Well, basically what happened was actually that I kind of knew that anarcho-pacifism was a thing, and I was just like, wow, so is there a way that you can be a communist if you don't like violence at all? And then I was trying to discover if they actually like really didn't ever support violence, or just like what they were about. And some people said that they really didn't support violence ever, which I thought was a bit far-fetched to think that you could do a revolution and just like expropriate the means of production and all that without things ever getting violent. And then other people said that they just basically kind of like didn't think about it, I guess, or didn't like just didn't participate in it. They just participated in mutual aid and all these other things that aren't related to violence. And I guess the other thing is, because like I said, that I think it's far-fetched to think that you can abolish capitalism without things getting violent. It's because like I kind of had this idea, kind of still do, even though I can see how it's a bit silly, but I kind of have this idea that communism would be like better for everyone, and including capitalists, although they can't see that, and it gets to a point where if you can't get to the correct moral conclusions, like it's a bit tragic that you didn't make it in time, but at that point, like, I'm sorry, we're just gonna have to violate the TOS. But I had this idea that revolution would be this kind of one break where we go from capitalism being bad for everyone to communism being good for everyone. And I think the big problem is that it's in fact not just this one-time thing that gets us to the perfect society. There are all these struggles that kind of lead up to it, or they're kind of not minor, but like there aren't struggles that are gonna take us to communism, but are struggles that like working class struggles, or struggles of oppressed people, like the whole BLM thing. And those struggles might result in a situation where the ruling classes suffer and they have to be stripped of their privileges, but they don't really get anything in return. Because, I had this idea that revolution meant abolishing capitalism and making things better for everyone. However, there are whatever, I'll just put other minor struggles that strip ruling classes of I cannot type of privilege without giving anything in return. Yeah, because I think that, like I said, it's probably a bit naive, but I have this kind of idea that, under communism, okay, you don't have this privilege of being a capitalist and having like a good life, which I don't even think it's that good, because I think capitalists also suffer under capitalism more on like a psychological, emotional level, I guess, than a material one, but still. But yeah, you don't have those privileges, but I think they would get a better life too, because like I said, I think it would be better emotionally and psychologically. But these other minor struggles, I feel like, make their lives just worse. Like, for example, the whole thing with landlords, right? Under communism, there would be no landlords and tenants, but everyone would have housing and nobody would have to work a miserable wage job. So let me put an example. Landlords. Under communism, no landlords or tenants. Tenants. And no one would need a shitty wage job. However, under capitalism, when people do things against landlords, it's like, well, now, like what you're trying to do, like now they're just gonna need to become proletarians too. And I'm pretty sure Lenin, and I think Marx too, kind of thought that this was a good thing, like when more people became proletarians, or when petit bourgeois people were kind of in this limbo between ascending to the haute bourgeoisie and falling into the proletariat. And I guess they thought it was kind of good when they fell into the proletariat, because that meant more proletarians to make a revolution. But we all agree that being a proletarian is bad, so are we really going to celebrate that more people are finding themselves in those unfortunate circumstances? And obviously, on the flip side, landlords can only exist because other people have to be proletarians, so they don't have to be. So it's just kind of like this impossible situation where I just wish nobody had to be a fucking proletarian, but we can't go straight to that state of affairs. First, there are all these struggles, such as the struggle against landlords, which might make a landlord have to become a proletarian, and it would like make their lives worse. And that just doesn't sit well with me. But like I said, I recognize I'm making this like an impossible situation, so I'm just not a good person to be making these kinds of decisions. Like, even the fucking trolley problem, I have no fucking idea what I would answer to that. If it were me, I guess if it were me, I wouldn't do anything because I wouldn't know what to do, and then the trolley would just go and kill the 5 people, right? Because I wouldn't do anything, and so things would just follow whatever path they were following. So that's the argument for why you could say that I'm a liberal, because if I'm not going to do anything, because both things that I could do are kind of like, oh, I don't know if that gels very, very well with my principles. I don't know, that I'm not really comfortable with that, and I'm not really comfortable with that either. And while I'm just like sitting there fucking having these thoughts, then liberalism is just like being allowed to continue. But yeah, that's it. And let me write down what I said. What did I say? No landlords or tenants, and no one need a shitty wage job. But in the struggle against landlords might become proletarians, and that's bad. Hold on. And that's bad because being a proletarian bad, but also being able to be a landlord only because other people are forced to be, I can't type, proletarians, also bad. Um, yeah, I think this last example I gave about the landlords and the trolley problem, that's probably a good way to put my whole problem with politics at the moment. I guess that's where I'm at. It's always great because like if you're ever struggling to collect your thoughts or like organize them or figure out where you stand on something, I recommend finding a way to vent, whether that's just like writing on a journal or writing like anywhere, or talking to other people, or just talking to yourself, because I always feel like I have all these kind of vague, foggy thoughts in my mind that seem very overwhelming, and I'm like, oh my god, I'm never going to be able to like get any coherent ideas out of this. Like I'm never going to be able to organize this in any coherent way that I could explain to people, and I'm never going to be able to understand it, and nobody else is ever going to be able to understand it, and communication is impossible, and humans are all just like totally alone and isolated in their own minds. And I started to get like all these like catastrophic thoughts, I guess, where it just gets worse and worse and worse, and I just end up getting caught in like this loop of not doing anything. But every single time I'm kind of hesitant to stream about it or talk to anyone about it or try to explain it, because I think I'm not going to be able to. But every single time when I start talking or I start writing or I start trying to explain, it might be hard at first and it might be very uncomfortable at first, but at the end I always feel like I come out of the whole thing with more clarity than I had before. So there you go, there's a self-help psychology tip for you people. If you're figuring out where you stand, don't filter it through the trolley problem. It's meant to illustrate ethical dilemmas, not political compass. Well, what is politics if not ethical dilemmas? Here's my answer to the trolley problem. Stop the trolley and put the person who set it up in detainment. Oh my god, I'm not even going to go into this because that's the whole election situation, and I'm not going to talk about that ever again. Like, I talked about it way more than enough for a fucking lifetime when it was happening, like when in the period leading up to the election. And then when it was over, I was like, wow, that's finally over, we can finally stop talking about it. And then I realized, shit, we're going to start having the exact same discourse in 4 years, aren't we? And every 4 years. But I'm really going to try to not get involved in it ever again, because holy shit, that was stupid. And then there were some notes that I wasn't even meant to show on stream, but I forgot the edgy Hitler stuff, also anti-Microsoft and classmates, even if transition. Yeah, this is basically just like stuff I had already said, but there are a few details that I forgot. Like I had said, my idea was really to make a video about this, but I don't know if I'm ever going to. So, in case I don't, at least we have the stream. And I explained the psychology of becoming an edgelord, but didn't comment on unbecoming that. So like when I explained how I became an edgelord, like an anti-SJW and all that, I went into like my family, my upbringing, the kinds of values that I developed as I grew up. And I feel like that's my whole character arc. That's actually kind of really nice, to be honest, that I can identify a character arc in my life. Like, I'm the main character, you know? But yeah, I feel like I've really been on this journey of being like this super edgelord in like every sense. Like, here I'm really only talking about how that affected my politics, but it affected like a lot of things. And then I had to, basically through therapy, to be honest, because I was noticing that I was getting like very, very dysfunctional in some aspects of my life. And then I had to go to therapy and kind of start to, you know, reconsider a bunch of those things and kind of be more flexible. That's what like my therapist always says. And yeah, kind of leave behind a lot of that edgy stuff and kind of accept that there are other emotions other than anger, and that it's okay to kind of need/want human relationships, and it's not a good idea to just like hate everyone and think that you're better than everyone else and you don't need anyone else. And yeah, basically just like be so distant from anything because you want to be this edgy lone wolf, whatever. And that's the story of my life, and that's also the story of my politics. However, like I said, to explain how I became an edgelord, I went a lot into these psychology things and family things and blah blah blah. But then when I was talking about unbecoming an edgelord, I feel like I only talked about my actual political views and not so much other things. I feel like it's because my phone, shut up. I feel like it's because when I was talking about becoming the edgelord, I started talking about a time in my life where it was like before I had any politics. So before my politics, the only thing that existed was everything else, like my family and psychology and values, blah, blah, blah. But then after I had already developed a set of politics, when I moved away from it, that was largely influenced by what was going on elsewhere in my psychology and therapy and all that. But it would be possible for me to tell the story only through the evolution of my actual views and how one argument seemed better than the other and how I changed my mind that way. But there was definitely a lot of influence from this process of not being this edgy lone wolf kind of person anymore. Like, one thing I remember was that when I joined Left Twitter, like around the time that I was when I was watching Destiny and I was kind of accepting SocDem and progressive arguments just based on like these other facts, that was when I started to participate in kind of meet people from left Twitter, I guess, and like progressive Twitter. And I started seeing a lot of people who say like ooh like I don't know how to explain this but it's basically like I just saw a lot of people with this kind of soft aesthetic and who said ooh and said, you know, things that you would say and put ooh at the end. But I can't remember anything. Like, the only thing that really stands out in my mind is like people saying ooh and then I started saying ooh which is like something that was totally unthinkable before for me, because like I said, I was this edgy person and I would never say ooh, and I would never try to like present myself as cute or anything like that, because that was like a weakness and has to be avoided at all costs, and that was something that could make me seem approachable and make people want to approach me and to get close to me. And like, no, we're totally walled off to everything, you know, like fucking electric barbed wire fence and walls and like a fortress. So no uwu. But then I was like, uwu. And I started kind of dipping my toes in that. And and yeah, that was basically I don't know, I think this is pretty much the only thing I can say about my journey towards becoming more of like a soft person. Not soft like weak, like that's the whole point, right? Like being soft is not being weak. But becoming more like that without going too much into other areas of my life, because otherwise I would just like go off into like many different tangents and stuff like that. And there are other things that I would like to talk about at some point, either in a video or maybe if I feel like I'm never going to do the videos, I might just do a stream. But for this, I'm trying to keep it limited to the politics, because otherwise, yeah, because like I said, this whole edgy to not edgy thing is like this overarching thing in my life. And if I'm not careful, whenever I try to talk about one aspect of my life, if I start getting into the edgy to not edgy thing, I might end up talking about all the aspects of my life, because that was influential in all the aspects and they all kind of bleed into each other. But we don't want to do that, because we would get lost and then we would write like a whole fucking book, and that's not what we want. Uwu's in chat. Feeling the solidarity with the uwu. Let me read the rest of what you said. Hyper Baroque. I think someday you might actually have an aha moment and have something to write about how to process the landlords. But stress isn't conducive to clear thinking. When learning piano, I found I could hit a wall by doubling down on practice. When I would take a break between semesters, I would improve dramatically. Not doing anything, as you said. Yeah, I might have a aha moment, as you say. But right now, this is where I'm at. So yeah, I think this is basically it. I really hope I can make this into a video. Like, the thing is, I think that the 2 times I tried to write the script and failed, it was because I was kind of having a hard time deciding what of like these overarching things to include or not, and I kind of wanted to include a lot of them, but then as I thought more and more about it and wrote more and more about it, I realized that there was no way I could put everything, and I shouldn't even put everything. I should really just keep it limited to the politics. And yeah, like it was actually better to keep it as limited as possible, because if I try to even it was like there was no way I was going to be able to fit everything. So if I'm not going to be able to fit everything anyway, then I might as well just keep it as limited as possible and not feel bad about it. And then if I ever want to, the thing is, I was thinking like if I ever want to, I can make a video that's just about this edgy to not edgy character arc in general. But even that I think is probably impossible, because you know, even when you write someone's biography, you have to pick an angle to go at it from. Like, you can't literally put everything, because you just can't. There's too much stuff. So instead of worrying about that, I'm probably going to try to just pick a topic I want to talk about and try to limit myself to only include the things related to that. So, for example, we have this one about politics. Something else that I might want to talk about is my relationship with sexuality, which also has to do with the edgy to non-edgy thing. there's also things that I like learn from therapy, and why, oh my god, shut up phone, and why I think therapy was beneficial to me. Yeah, there's probably other things. There's even, like, last night I was thinking about how the fact that I now ship Drarry like Draco Malfoy and Harry Potter, like the way that I'm able to ship that ship now also has to do with this character arc, because when I was younger, my edginess was preventing me from shipping it, and so I really hated it. But now they have like this totally new outlook on life. Now that I'm a totally like spiritually evolved human being, I can finally embrace Drarry. So yeah, did you enjoy this, I don't know, this stroll through my politics? Were you even here for the other stream, or did you just catch the end tonight? Yeah, what did you think of it? Good stream, I enjoyed. Nice. Sounds like you're headed into clearer days. Yeah, it does. I did miss the first one. I missed the last 40 minutes. Can you recap? No, just go back and watch it at twice the speed, okay? First one, loved it. Cool. Just speak quickly, it's okay. No, I'm not gonna recap. Like I said, you can rewind and watch it on twice the speed, and then I'll just, it'll just be me speaking quickly. That's unfortunate that you missed the last 40 minutes though. I wanted to know what you think about, like, how good a trad wife I'm gonna make or not. Alright, I guess that's it. We have achieved our goal for this stream. Again, like I said, I really hope I can make this into a video, but if I can't, then we have 2 streams explaining how I went from anti-SJW to anarcho-capitalist to liberal to Marxist to none of the above. Hope you have enjoyed this. Hope maybe you find it useful to understand how people go from one political position to the other, or if you just found it entertaining, that's great too. So yeah, thanks for hanging. Oh, I can't forget. Last time I forgot this and I got really upset. So someone asked, did you make a video about Riverdale? Yes, I made a video about Riverdale. It's unlisted, but it's on a playlist that's on the homepage of my channel. So if you just go to my channel, there's a playlist there, and the Riverdale video is on the playlist. So I'm sorry to e-beg, but I need to e-beg because I got caught up in this huge family drama about, like, do I even want to explain this? I guess I have to explain it. Basically, my aunt had a flat that she lived in, and then she couldn't afford to live there anymore, but the flat was in my name, so she stopped paying the fees and stuff. That debt would go to me, and so either I would be in debt because of that, or I could help her sell it and buy a different flat. And so I did that. I helped her sell it and helped her buy another one that's cheaper. However, in this process of selling one and buying another, there were a bunch of fees. There were a bunch of like deed fees and the fees for the, I think, registry office is what you call it. And I had to pay a lawyer, and my family wouldn't help with anything. So in the end, I basically had to spend all the money that I had ever made. Like, I was saving up with my money from Patreon and stuff like that to move out eventually, but I had to spend all that money because these things are really, really incredibly expensive. The taxes that you have to pay when you buy a flat and stuff like that, and I basically had to spend all that, and I still can't afford to pay the lawyer. So please, my loyal 10 concurrent viewers, if you can, I would greatly appreciate your help to pay this fucking lawyer that I had to hire because of things that weren't really my fault. It's just fucking family drama. So I actually set up a Ko-Fi if people wanna do like one-time payments. I'm gonna link it in the chat. So there you can donate just $3, which is probably not that much for you, but for me it would make a huge difference. Because yeah, when you just donate, just your donation doesn't seem like much, but obviously if more people donate as well, each of those people like make a difference, and when it all comes together it makes a huge difference. So if you can contribute just $3, I would greatly appreciate it. If you enjoy the stream, you know, I feel like it's kind of like when there's street performers and they either have like their guitar case for you to put like a, I don't know, like a $1 bill or like $5 or whatever, or they like pass around the hat. It's basically like that. Like, if you find my content either here streaming on or on Twitter, if you find it entertaining, I'm passing my hat around, and just $3 would help me a lot to pay this lawyer. Or if you would like something in return for your contribution, then I also have Patreon, where I post, well, I don't post them on Patreon, but you can basically become my patron to receive my artistic nudes. People seem to have been enjoying those a lot. I try to do like fun things with props and themed things. Like, I always do themed nudes for the holidays and stuff like that. I post feet. So if you would be interested in that, that is also a thing that I'm going to link in chat. And for just $5 a month, or you know, if you want to do just 1 month, you can pay $5 and then cancel it. You can get my pictures. So yeah, I would greatly appreciate anything that you can possibly contribute to this very annoying situation that I find myself in. But anyway, yeah, hope you enjoyed the stream. Hope I can make it into a video. And that's it. Good night.